Hello and welcome back to Anaheim, California, here on the BlizzCon stage for the HGC 2017 Championship. How you guys doing out there? You having a blast? Fantastic. We just saw our first quarterfinal match where we had a dominant victory by MVP Black. MVP Black. That's hard to say, guys. Over Team Freedom from North America. And of course, up next, our second quarterfinal match, two Titans out of EU. That is Team Expert versus Team Dignitas. It's gonna be an incredible matchup. Thank you for being here with us. And of course, if you're watching on stream, thank you as well for joining us. Let's head on over to our desk with Kylaris and the crew to learn a little bit more about these teams and get ready for our next match. Thank you.
That's right, one of the most anticipated fixtures in our round of 8 is about to go down. It will be Team Dignitas going up against Team Expert. Joining me on the desk, actually the same people that were joining me on the previous desk. So not really much room for me to actually introduce you. You guys have already been here for a little while. Gentlemen, we saw a pretty dominant position there by MVP Black in their previous series, but I think a lot of people have been looking forward to what you could argue will be the closest series here in the round of 8. Dignitas against Team Expert.
At least from the looks of it, right? We have two European teams going up against one another here. The number 2 and the number 3 seeded team from their region in Europe in Dignitas versus Expert. And now, what I'm gonna say is a bit of a paraphrase here, but Dignitas basically asked, why does the heaven hate us? Why do we have to go up against Expert here? Yeah. They're the only team here that wins their group and doesn't get to go up against the North American team, as well as North America has been doing. And I'd love to see them do well. You know, this is Expert. They're a very strong team. It's a very strong first match.
The power levels are still quite different from continent to continent when you consider that, from what we've seen traditionally here, especially in 2017. But Jay, looking at how these two teams match up, it could be quite close for these guys.
It could be incredibly close. There's something to be said about familiarity. You look at Dignitas, Fnatic, some of those epic series, and then you go over to Korea, you've got Ballistics versus MVP Black. You can't get away with some of the tricks that you can otherwise when you go up against somebody that you've gone up against so many times. So we know Expert knows all the tricks. Expert has a few tricks of their own, obviously. So Dignitas is very well aware of that, so we'll see. And
who knows in a best of 3 format. Let's take a look at the updated bracket here as we continue on through the round of 8. And we do have that 2-0 for MVP Black, looking to secure themselves another World Championship. Meanwhile, our next matchup will be Team Dignitas going up against Team Expert. Skimmy, you've got the opportunity to actually commentate Expert, I believe, whilst you were at the Western Clash, as well as, you know, view Dignitas from afar, because obviously they didn't qualify for that Western Clash. In fact, Expert was the team that you could argue trumped Dignitas in being able to get that spot.
I mean, the kind of story or the narrative for Expert, for me kind of personally, it feels a bit like the European Team Freedom. This is a team that really come out of nowhere. They've really shown a lot of respect and really climbed their way to the top of this ladder, so to speak, right? So this matchup, it's quite close. There's no real definitive, in my opinion, personally, as to where this one goes. They've obviously had a lot of league, played over the Korean boot camp together, the power levels between them and Korea as to where these European teams really fit in the scale of things. It's interesting to hear everyone's different opinion, but it is an all-European affair. One of these guys will have to go home, and the North American fans will be happy.
And I want to see what kind of Team Expert we're going to be having here. You look at the team, and you know, much has been said about Expert, their quirky picks, but they've really gone into a very standard drafting pattern as well. They are fundamentally very strong, Expert. And they say they follow their own philosophy for what is strong, what is good. They don't adapt too much to the other teams. They haven't become more normal because they want to fit in or be normal. It's just what they believe is good. So I want to see here, are we going to have things that look a lot like MVP Black, standard picks, high win rate heroes, Murd and Rhaegar, or are we going to see a little bit of that quirkiness factor come out here, going up against Dignitas?
Well, we're about to go into this best of 3 in a moment, of course. Team Dignitas will go up against Team Expert, as old teammates here on the BlizzCon stage are going to be reignited as enemies.
So this is my 3rd time competing at BlizzCon. I competed here in 2015, where I actually made it to the grand final. Unfortunately, I lost. I'm blushing over that. I also competed in 2016 where I made it to the semi-final. So hopefully this year I'm going to break that downward trend and get the trophy. Facing Expert is always scary, but facing them in a best of 3 is even worse. They have a lot of really cool strategies and they love to make teams adapt. And adapting in only 2 games is really tough.
For us, it'll mostly just be about playing what we're confident in, playing our own game the best that we can, and kind of just trying to respect what they're going to do, but not focus too much on things that they can play.
We're playing Team Dignitas in the first round, in the quarterfinals, and they're a team we've had a lot of rivalry against.
They know our playstyle, and we know their playstyle more or less. So I would expect even games, and there's no result that would be surprising. So I was competing at BlizzCon 2 years ago. I was in Team Dignitas, and we actually have 2 members from this team that played there, because Ataro Enjoy was also at the same team, and we managed to go to finals.
So this is my first time going into BlizzCon. 2 of my teammates have been here before, but I'm completely new, and I'm super excited to play on like the biggest stage there is. I wouldn't be as satisfied if we didn't make top 4 though, so Dignitas is going down.
Let's give a huge BlizzCon welcome to our red team from Europe, their first time on the BlizzCon stage, Team Expert! And over in the blue corner, making their return to BlizzCon, it's none other than Team Dignitas! Captains, please come center stage and shake hands. Gentlemen, may the best man win. Let's head over to the desk with Kylaris and our gentlemen for more info about this match.
A loud response from the crowd here as a fan favorite in Team Dignitas makes their way to the stage. But of course, it's not as cut and dry as all that. Team Expert have garnered themselves a lot of fans over the past year and have been able to perform on big stages, such as the Western Clash. The one thing I want to ask you guys, in Phase 2 of HGC Europe, there were 2 games between these 2 teams. 3-2 and 3-2. 1 winning each of those series. So it went absolutely down to the wire every single time. And overall, they were fantastic series to watch. Very, very equally matched, these 2 teams.
Yeah, in every sense of the word, Kylaris, this is a derby. They're 2 different teams, but they feel almost like, in a way, like teammates battling each other. They know each other so well. They have close matches. They scrim and practice together. And they've played against each other on the podium. As much as Expert here is an underdog against Dignitas, just like Freedom was an underdog against MVP Black, I dare say this one is going to be a whole lot closer.
The whole thing I see about these teams is that you reference Team Freedom as the way that Experts kind of come up, except they're about 6 months ahead of where Freedom is, right? So they look more refined, but it still seems like they're refining, as we talked about, their meta. And then on the other side, we see Dignitas after the midseason brawl, they weren't satisfied. We see Mene switching over more to the flex role, Snitch more into the carry role. Yeah. So this has been an adaptation period, which is one of the big reasons why they didn't make it to the second Western Clash. But I feel like they've had enough time at this point to kind of get into their top form. I just wonder how it's going to play out.
I think mentality is going to be a big thing here. If you're coming on the train for Dignitas, they've got everything to lose in this sort of say. Bakery says, you know, I've been to finals. This time I actually want to make it to the grand final. I want to show that Europe still are that #1 region. Expert, as you mentioned, yeah, they're coming in as that new team looking to try and upset the feathers, so to speak, right? So they want to try and cause a bit of a ruckus. End of the day, though, it comes down to the ideal of it is Europe against Europe. One of these guys is not going to make it. I mean, It's going to be a tough order.
Yeah, it definitely is. Of course, you can cheer for both of these teams as we continue things out in the HGC universe with the cheer bar, the global cheer bar, to see our progress so far. We are so close to 27 million. I can almost smell it there. So make sure to cheer for either Team Dignitas or Team Expert over in chat, as it's all welcome indeed. You can get yourself banners, sprays, and of course, the Deadly Chaos Lizard. It's just a little bit away, so just gotta move that on a bit, get it going. Of course, right, we have now this best of 3 almost on the way between these two teams. Team Dignitas have said many, many times that they thrive off the crowd. They play best when they're on a stage like this, like BlizzCon. Everybody wants to be here, but I think that for teams like Dignitas, especially teams like Fnatic as well, they get fueled so much by that energy.
And it's one thing to say that, but it's actually true. We've seen it.
Yes, we have.
Dignitas, every time where you think they are going to be losing, look at their amazing run at the mid-season brawl about 5 months ago, where they just went on a tearing rampage, absolutely leaving South Korean teams left and right, then bringing it to Fnatic, who looked much better than them, but they just, you know, they have that magical quantity, and I can only imagine that crowd over there is a big part of that reason.
That's right, that's spice. Let's find out which is our first battleground here going into this best of 3 as we head over and we find out Dignitas is going to pick Infernal Shrines. What do you make of it, guys?
I make of it that Dignitas probably picked the best map to go against Expert. Expert, several months ago in Phase 1, had some very interesting split pushes that they kind of learned from some of the teams that were here at BlizzCon last year. They got away from that, and I feel that this kind of goes more towards the skirmish style that we see Dignitas play. And if you watch them against Roll20, the Abathur composition that they did, they absolutely dominated from 2 minutes in until the end of the game. They had such control, the macro control. They feel very comfortable on this battleground.
All right, we're getting into the draft here. Europe goes up against Europe here as Team Dignitas against Expert. We get into the draft, a best of 3 to find out who goes on to the round of 4.
Yeah, just to further J-How's point before, yeah, it's all about setting up that potential. You've got that strategy, once again, being reactive or proactive. Where you're going to be looking to try and go with this draft, how are you going to be trying to utilize your composition? Is it early game focused? Is it focused on a team fight, macro, or even split push? We've seen a lot of support bans coming out so far, but we are going to have that adaptation right out of the gate. ETC banned off by the Expert.
I just wonder if that's going to warrant a Murden ban. Murden has kind of been that top tier, but it also says that, wait a minute, like maybe they let it through. The Abathur composition, both teams are very adept at playing this. We've seen Mene on one side, Adiardi, who I believe they played it as well during opening week, and they had traditionally in the past, so no surprise that Abathur's just taken completely away.
And how could we forget about Expert versus Fnatic at the Western Clash, where Expert, for all intents and purposes, looked like they would take down Fnatic there in that grand finals with an Abathur composition on Infernal Shrines. No way, Jose, says Team Dignitas. They'll be removing that pick.
VTC off the board, Murden becomes the most attractive option there. Such a well-rounded hero, really finding that resurgence as a result of this kit. Arguably so, probably his strongest iteration since he's been released.
One of the things that we've seen Mene play a lot of is Tassadar in Phase 2, especially in opening week as well. He has a phenomenal Tassadar. Tassadar is one of the heroes that we've kind of seen fall in favor a little bit. His win rate has been a little bit lower, but on Infernal Shrines, he contributes to the objective very, very well. He also complements a lot of what we see Snitch do, whether it be the Bala, Greymane, things like that. We'll see if they go that route and if they go early.
Another thing that's possible is that Dignitas would like to lock in their warrior now. They don't have to, though. They have an ace up their sleeves. JPL, the warrior player for Dignitas, can play Stitches here. And as the strategy for Expert is becoming apparent, Muradin, ETC, a kind of warrior choke, the most popular ones. Team Dignitas needs to answer the question, do we want to lock in our warrior now? And the answer is yes, Tyrael and Genji.
This surprises me a bit. The early commitment towards Genji, Uther's kind of fallen off a little bit, so you go with the next best option, somebody that you can dive in with. That's going to be Tyrael. You have the Sanctification. It's an AoE Divine Shield, so to speak. You just have to be on the same page, and this team obviously played together so long, it's going to be a little bit easier to execute, but a little bit surprising they committed to it this early, showing their hands. For now, we'll see what they end up going with afterwards.
I mean, typically speaking, when we see these kind of double support compositions, it's almost a game of chess, right? You pick a support, they pick some counters towards it, you pick another support to try and band-aid, so to speak, what that weakness is now just being countered with. So They've gone for the Tyrrell. We've seen obviously the Chinese region love and adore this hero so much, but this really screams to me they want to find those brawls. They really want to sort of tunnel the Infernal Shrine itself. Bring Expert in.
The one thing this does is that Rhaegar does terrible against Genji Dragon Blades. It forces the double support. Rhaegar is one of the top supports on this because of that lightning bond with his lightning shield at level 1. So it does give you a little bit more question marks in terms of what you're comfortable with. They still go Rhaegar, they get Sonya. You can expect there's probably going to be a bit more protection in the later part of that draft.
Going by the win rates, things look good for Team Expert. Murden is sitting at around 65% win rate in this tournament. That makes him one of the best performing heroes of the entire tournament, together with Rhaegar, who is at 70% win rate. Expert has those most popular of picks, so they're bringing a very standard brand of drafting so far.
It's a lot of shrine control there. Between the Sonya Murden and, of course, Rhaegar, we talked about the lightning bond there. That's a lot of clear and a lot of control. Obviously, Tyrael Genji is more just a dive style, so very contrasting parts.
Do they focus their attention towards the solo lane for this ban, do you think? Since I believe in my heart that something like Xaylia versus Athro is going to be a very important lane setup in this match.
I think anytime you draft a Genji on either side, solo lane ceases to have meaning. No one can win the solo lane anymore when Genji can just swift strike in, come out of the shadows, and make that a lopsided affair. So it definitely will need people to be more passive early game.
Team Expert obviously has some knowledge behind the scenes of
not a common ban.
Not a common ban at all, and that is one of the huge things. Dignitas sees themselves as one of the best macro-based teams. I see them the same way, and this is one way to keep the macro focus on.
I mean, this is why I was kind of like looking at this ban. What can it actually really describe to us? Both Dignitas and Expert really drafting for that sort of point control, drafting for that clash.
Wow.
Removing the Zagara removes that macro idea, but yeah.
This is interesting, isn't it? We just described it in the first series. Genji, swift strike in, very mad dash, very long distance. Brightwing teleport in, Emerald Wind in the midst of the foes to split them up. Karazim, bonus healing, bonus movement speed.
And it's an old favorite for Team Dignitas, with Bakery probably going to be playing that Karazim.
This is a very apparent fighting strategy for Team Dignitas.
But this is what we learned from their Korean bootcamp. They've sort of discovered, so to speak, that no more is it a case of picking a strong healer and just looking to try and out-sustain. You have those weaknesses in terms of siege, in terms of macro play, but by going niche, you patch all of that. Hey, you have now a lot of damage, you have a lot of utility, you have a lot of wave clear, you have a global on that side as well. Dignitas now forcing the hand of Expert with these last two picks.
An Expert needs to make a choice here. Do they go for an area of effect silence to try and break this apart? Do they go for more protection or more damage? There's a lot of options, JR.
There's a lot of options, and I instantly think of Nick's hero, the Vala, and I was going to say, we have basically Vala, Tracer, Chromie are the main three, Li Ming's kind of that backup option. You got to have some self-preservation back there. The Tassadar pick's a bit surprising in this composition, but now I really wonder, is this going to be a Xaylia Illidan that we haven't seen in a while? Will be the Malthael. That's why it warranted the Lucio ban. We'll see the Malthael go out there. There's a lot of options for Xaylia. He tends to run more towards the Arthas on Infernal Shrines at times to help with the clear, help with the control. Really curious what this last pick's going to be.
By going for this Tesla ban, this screams to me that, well, I mean, suppose Dignitas banning the Lucio is the case of Sonya's going to be the main part. They want to make sure that she's really amplified. The Tesla shield, much the same as the Valo, is going to empower her to do her job. But if you actually look at these heroes on the side, once again we have the argument, Muradin has self-sustain. You're then going to have Sonya with self-sustain. Li Ming, if she goes for dominance at level 4, will have self-sustain. This is a composition which can run with the wind. They can stick around for as long as possible, and they have double support on top of that as well.
I think that's the key here, really, Skimmy, that you have a set of heroes that are fairly independent. When they get split away from Emerald Wind, you have that invincibility and invisibility in Tassadar, and the teleport and everything. So that definitely makes a lot of sense. Now, for the final pick on Dignitas, I think they had a number of choices, but it had to be some kind of wave clear. Because the rest of this team, it's all about that level 10 plus team fight.
The one thing I want people to focus on, this is something we were researching the other day, is the way that Xaylia plays. We talked about the anchoring in game 1 from Muradin, but they play it a little bit differently. They use it for engages, but they also use it defensively in that they will rotate a 4-man push, take walls. They try and take small little bits to get experience, soften up lanes for the future punishers. Now, if you actually just watch the mini-map, because watching Leoric is probably not the most exciting part of the game, but you'll watch Leo just go stand in a bush. He's basically unkillable. He's got a slow, he's got a cleave. He make sure that he protects their flank, and then he can always Wraith walk out. It's a big part of what Dignitas likes to do.
The cool thing for me is when he's going to swing that mace, they're slowed, Smite's going to come across, they're sped up. So it's a case of like, I suppose like a patchwork version of Lucio, right? We are going to go force that fight. You are not running away from us. And as you say, yeah, Leoric will be that mobile ward, always giving vision, always allowing him to be one step ahead when it comes to that macro game.
There's options as well on the side of Dignitas, because if they don't want to go for the Genji Brightwing bomb, you can technically use it with Leoric and Wraithwalk and position exactly where you want to be.
And Tyrael.
And
I'm
Tyrael
gonna
as
throw
well.
his sword down. When we're ready, I'll hit Q again. And
I guess you could do it on Karazin too. You punch in with the Radiant Dash, Brightwing. The timing needs to be good.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So looking at this, guys, where do you think, who has power in this draft, or is it too even to call?
That's the cool thing about this draft. There's power on either side. You have the impermeability of Team Expert. Standard, wave clear, functional in every way. Utility, vision. And then you've got Team Dignitas. They pigeonhole themselves in one direction a lot more.
Yep.
It's a deep dive. They require coordination, execution, and they need to win the team fights because they have a weaker sway on the map.
One thing that Expert loves to do, they have better shrine control. They win the Punisher. They understand the early ones won't be there. Dignitas will have a bit of a soft one. If Dignitas, doing their research, knows and understands, Expert will not push with the first Punisher or two. They'll try and push another lane. Dignitas, I think, very familiar with this. So a little bit stagnant early game potentially, but post level 10, definitely for Dignitas.
Short thoughts?
Thought my final words really would be the case of if they can take out the Sonya, which seems to be a crux of what Expert are after, things can work in favor of Dignitas.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. It's time to get into it as Europe goes up against Europe. The winner of this is able to move on to the round of 4. Of course, there's only game 1 to start things off. Let's head over to our commentary team for Dignitas versus Expert.
That is right, Caleris. Europe versus Europe. Something feels very natural about this, Caldor. It feels like we're at home.
Yeah, it definitely does. The draft, on the other hand, is super interesting.
Yes.
Because on Dignitas' side, you can really see that they took a lot from the boot camp in Korea, whereas Expert, as they had it over, said from the start, we feel really set in our meta. We feel our meta is strong. We can play the same here, and it shows in their draft. They have again Sonya, which was a huge staple in Phase 2 for them in the European scene, and Muradin at that front line. Bad Bunny is going to have a lot of fun with him.
Well, let's see who can pull ahead here as we move into the battleground. It will be Infernal Shrines as Team Dignitas will be taking on Team Expert, a matchup that we've seen time and time again in the HGC, but yet we have not seen it on land, so I'm very excited for it, Caldor.
Yeah, this is going to be fantastic, and both of the teams were very curious about how this is going to go. So I expect a close series with Bakery to the left on Karazim, JPL on Tyrael at that front line, Mena on Brightwing here, the second support, Snitch on Genji, and last but not least, Zelia on Leoric. Ladies and gentlemen, Team Dignitas!
Now, there are a lot of fans for Dignitas, but on the right side, Team Expert, they are here to aim and please here. It's going to be Bad Bunny playing Muradin, a Thorough Angel on the Sonya. Following up, we're going to have ADRD on the Tassadar, Nick playing Li Ming, and finally, it's going to be Muradin being played as well. Give it up for Team Expert!
This is definitely going to be a super interesting game here, since if you look at the two compositions, we talked about Expert having a lot of their comfort picks. They have Rega with Muradin here, there's a lot of wave clear, Muradin has the jumps into the backline, and Sonya. It is the hero for Ethereal, and he can do so much with her, especially on this map. Dignitas, on the other hand, have a very strong draft too. Our analysts have talked a bit about how you can always try to isolate targets after level 10 when Genji goes in or Leoric and you want to utilize Emerald Wind. The problem for Dignitas is that compared to what Expert is running here, they have a very execution-heavy draft. So everything needs to be absolutely on point if they want to put the pressure on the Expert.
And the execution stems from Snitch, who is playing the Genji, and he has improved dramatically throughout this entire year, becoming one of the best players that is available for Dignitas. So watch out for Snitch, who will be playing that Genji. On the other side, as mentioned, Bad Bunny is going to be one that you're going to have to watch. He will set up his team. And additionally, Team Expert, they have played Leap in the past. They have been aggressive enough. With Brightwing having a cleanse, probably not going to see that, but it's something that Team Dignitas has to worry about.
Yeah, Expert has played stuff like this quite a bit, and it's usually when they feel they can go for one-shots.
Yeah.
If they think that on the opponent side there's a lot of heroes that are very vulnerable to one-shot potential, then they sometimes use the leap option, especially if they fall a bit behind. So it's something that they can always show. And Dignitas expected some cheese. They were actually very worried about the series. Traditionally, they are the team that comes out ahead in the direct fight. But Expert has shown so many different strategies and adaptations in the past that Dignitas was very worried when they saw who they had to go up against in the round of 8.
Especially when you consider what happened in the HGC when it came to league play. You would see Team Expert take the lead first in a best of 3, but the best of 5 would come out to usually favor Dignitas. With this being a best of 3, Team Expert could come out with 2 wins right away and move forward. Now, the first shrine does activate. We'll have it up and available on the bottom side. Team Dignitas brings Lee Work, their best wave clear, down to clear it out.
And Sonya is starting to make the rotation into the middle now. Now, of course, they are trying to get the experience here as well. Sonya keeping busy, Brightwing trying to meet it, but that's, of course, a losing matchup for Brightwing. But the 4 versus 4 is what we're focusing our attention on, as it's getting quite dicey here. With Mena even jumping in to help out, they want this shrine, they need this shrine. Because in the meantime, Sonya is rotating up once again, giving even more experience to Team Expert.
Team Expert willing to give it away here and get that experience lead 26-12, but Expert wants to delay as much as they can, dropping down a couple of side storms and dropping some orbs from Nick will delay here for Dignitas. But ultimately, Dignitas will get this Punisher. Now, where do they gain lead here? Do they push on the bottom, break down the turrets, or do they spread out once again and move towards 10 to stay with Expert?
Their goal, of course, is now to close that gap in experience that Expert was able to get by focusing onto the top and mid lane with Sonya. So at this point, we have Dignitas splitting into mid and top, but 3 heroes are still pushing with the Punisher at the bottom of the map, making sure that they can at least get a tower or 2 to close that experience gap, and they already succeeded in doing so.
The best part about these 3 heroes, though, is that somebody gets jumped on. In particular, that Tassadar or that Li Ming, all 3 of them can dive forward and try to get a kill. That's why they left these 3 down here. Team Expert, knowing this, allowed Bad Bunny to tank that Punisher, and they defend easily.
Yeah, the mobility that we have for Dignitas is, of course, absolutely crazy. Every single hero on this setup has the opportunity to move out of fight. Now, I also want to point something out real quickly as we're talking about the setup that Expert is running. We have Carla's Light taken as the level 4 talent, so the extra armor here, which makes a lot of sense if you look at the setup they are running. Traditionally, you would expect Life Leech to come out, but that's more so the case if you have that range damage dealer, that auto attacker that really provides most of the heavy impact in the battle, which here is not the case. You want to keep Sonya safe, and this is where the extra armor comes in quite handy.
But the real question, Caldor, what do you think about the Lee Work build?
I smell a bait.
Team Dignitas and Team Expert will set their own bait eventually here on the side as they're on the bottom pushing in, get some experience, but this is also they can grab the mercenary camps. Team Expert is willing to sniff us out though. They have a composition that can be aggressive, especially with Muradin being able to move in and force those fights. So Bad Bunny will be the one to start those engagements, and if Sonya ever peels down, expect a team fight.
And you know, I mean, you were of course baiting a bit with that Leoric build, but the 13-16 is going to have the most effect against Sonya herself. It's unlikely that you're going to get the hit against Li Ming and reduce her damage output by those 50% that you get with the Ominous Raids. So you need to focus on Sonya as she is at that front line. And that can really help, since Aethero, as we stated before, is really a staple in this entire composition, and he usually just bodies opponents.
Well, a tactical pause here as we set up and get ready for the next Shrine phase. Teams talking about what they want to do for that push in. So we're going to go ahead and take a little bit of a second here as we move in, but the crowd being beautiful as ever, all turning out here, watching the EU match. Ooh, a couple of Dignitas fans there. You guys seem pretty excited.
Now, the cool thing in the game right now is that you can really tell that these 2 are really familiar with each other.
Yeah.
Because we have 0 kills so far. It was just a traditional trade-off at the start. From the get-go, Expert knew, hey, we don't really want to commit to this battle yet. We want to make sure that we get some extra experience on the lanes. We give the Punisher over, and Dignitas equalizes the score. This is really going to come down to level 10s and then the team fights that we're going to see later on.
And the level 10s that you mentioned really stem from that Tyrael and that Genji, the ability to jump forward, drop Sanification, delete a target, especially with Kerosene damage coming out. The question for me, though, is do we see Palm or do we get that 7-sided strike?
It's actually a good question here. At this point, I would say that with Palm, you can save Genji if he goes into deep. It's a bit of a question what they expect here from Muradin. As you try to isolate a target, normally you would lean towards the 7-sided. It gives you a bit more blow potential. If you get a good combo off with Genji moving in, Brightwing getting the Emerald Wind, and then the isolated target is just locked down, then you can simply blow him away with a 7-sided. So that would be the aggressive version, and I expect that to be come out here.
Now, the thing that's standing out for me, too, is that Brightwing actually didn't move into that cleanse. Now, of course, Kerosene at 16 can move into his own form of cleanse as well, but that might open up the door a little bit here for that Sonya to move into lead.
Yeah, especially when we're talking about the Li Ming behind it. So if Muradin leads with the Stormbolt, Sonya follows up with an additional stun, then Li Ming can get the combo in. Not sure we're going to see Murky here. I know you like that.
That's a good sign right there. top 10 signs, easily.
I would give it a 6.5.
This guy, ooh, murky outfits over there. But continue your point there, the Brightwing phase shift, of course, being maybe a bait to get that leap to come out, knowing that 16 that cleanse is available for Kerosene.
I mean, the problem that you have if you go into leap is you need to blow up a target early on.
Yeah.
You are forced. If you don't kill the target, then you are in trouble. Since Sonya misses out on a lot of the sustain, and oftentimes when you're talking about Infernal Shrines, it's a 5 versus 5 on the Shrine where you want to have that sustain to just carry a team through and win the Punisher. So I'm not quite sure if Expert is really willing to take that risk here. They've shown with that draft that they're not afraid of going toe-to-toe with Team Dignitas when it comes to stable play. But I'm not quite sure if that would be the right move here, because who are you going to choose? If you don't blow them up right away, they will escape. Brightwing has the Emerald Wind. There is also Sanctification to be considered. And if it's Karazim and he doesn't die instantly, he can just dash out.
I think my argument would come from when Brightwing comes in with the phase shift and she starts that Emerald Wind, the leap can interrupt and focus the target. But it is a small timing, it is difficult. We're mostly just discussing the options that are available. But it looks like we are ready to go back into the match.
And I have to stress again, both of these teams were actually really nervous when they saw who they went up against. Dignitas even more so than Expert. On Expert side, we had Benny actually tweet this morning and saying, well, I would argue that we got the easiest team in a round of 8. So he considers Dignitas to be an even weaker opponent than all the North American teams that we heard the analysts talk about earlier.
Team Expert laying on the gauntlet, but can they follow through? And that's what we're here to find out now as we are moving towards level 9. One level away from that 10. We do have a shrine at the very top. Leoric once again up there clearing it for Dignitas and Team Expert. Once again, seems like they want to move in favor of grabbing the experience, pushing the different lanes here and working on level 10.
For me personally, this really comes down to execution and to concentration today. I've been watching both of these teams now scrim for more than a week. And the one thing that was very telling is that on a good day, they played fantastic, but there were so many days where the coordination was just off a little bit, and that might be exactly what's seeing here. Great play by Team Expert as they get the kill against Bakery. Karazim a little bit too far out and immediately getting punished. Expert gaining some momentum as they're fighting for the Shrine.
That's a huge kill there. First off, you get the level 10, and secondly, you can move in and put Sonya on top of that Shrine with Rhaegar, and they can answer back and get their own clear. Dignitas, with that death alone, gives up on the Punisher, and Team Expert is looking to run with it here, grabbing damage already on the fort top left, and Team Dignitas has to spread out and work on their own 10.
And that's exactly the problem now. If you are just a little bit off here, you will get punished. And Karazim was just too far forward. So now we are seeing Expert take the Punisher, but Dignitas has answered. They went to the bot lane, and they are actually able to grab a fort here. So at least they're trading structures.
That's what I love about EU versus EU, the macro trades that you usually see from our teams. The moment Karazim got destroyed there, Brightwing went to the bottom with Genji, and they are working on that fort. Now, Tassadar shows up to try and help, but he actually misses out and loses the fort. Team Expert will have to grab at the top side and continue to keep their lead and experience, and this will be very helpful for them as they continue to group up. But Curson on the back line may have been caught here. Rhaegar is up, getting body blocked by Bad Benny. Woo, a little bit careful there.
Yeah, Snitch was already thinking about jumping back in again, but of course he was still on cooldown. Also, we need to talk quickly about Karazim once more. He went into Palm, over 7-sided. So now the one-shot potential is a little bit reduced, but he can now save, especially Genji, when Snitch tries to go deep.
Well, at the same time, Murden has yet to pick his heroic. We have seen a lot of Haymaker. I'm not expecting it from Bad Benny. I feel like we would be moving into an Avatar, but a Haymaker against a mobile comp and disrupting their execution could be worth it.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see if they commit to that. And I mean, it's Team Expert, so they didn't go into Leap. We still see the Wrath of the Berserker, as expected, Archon as well. But we could definitely see a couple of sneaky plays here by Muradin if they feel that he's safe enough. And we have double support, so that might be the idea here. He still hasn't taken anything, but he will so in the fight when he's actually in trouble. For now, they're just trying to take the camp away. Brightwing still at the top, and that's one of the big assets of Dignitas, the global that they have.
Big engage here on the right side as Bad Benny moves forward. JPL will be on the front, trying to lead forward. Snitch has used the Dragon Blade, so he's wanting to fight. A Thorough taking the damage here on the front line, but Team Expert looks like they're just going to go for a disengage, and they walk away easily.
Yeah, shield was immediately there from Tassadar, so well played. But I still have to say that I like the invade from Dignitas. So they see that the camp is being attacked, and then they make their move as they know, okay, now we can sneak the camp in. Expert moves away, they don't risk too much. Keep in mind, we only have 1 kill so far in the entire game, and we're 8.5 minutes in. And that was the 1 kill against Bakery as he stepped out a bit too far. So both of the teams here playing it super cautious.
playing on a razor's edge here between our two teams. Also need to note there is that Bad Bunny actually interrupted the Tyrael sanctification, or Dignitas may have gone a bit more aggressive. So Sync, while interrupted, is still available for the team. Granted, you're probably not going to see it be used. You want to make sure you have that Dragon Blade available when you do use a Sync, but still something to consider here as Team Expert moves in again here, and they're watching out for the invade that Dignitas has tried to pull off. They're actually getting pretty aggressive, and Sonya, she's coming down to join in.
Yeah, Sonya is going to make that move. 13 for both of the teams. Soon going to be ready. It's going to be ready for the Shrine for sure. So this is really the battle that we are looking towards. We have a 5 versus 5 on even talents. The teams have reached the mid game here, and especially with Ominous Raid, this is something where Sonya is going to have a bit of a harder time to get the damage out.
Are you shaking in your socks? Because I am shaking in my socks right now. The intensity between these two teams is pretty darn aggressive. Team Expert is on the side here while Bad Bunny jumps away.
Yeah, for me it's especially because I know how Dignitas was not looking forward to this match. They were afraid of Cheese. So far they haven't gotten that yet, but we could still see Playmaker being used here. And also, of course, this is only map number 1 in this best of 3. And right now, Expert is taking control over the objective.
Dignitas looks scared. Now, granted, they're waiting for that Dragon Blade. That's when they're going to aggressive. Here it is up and available. They turn around and go straight for a throw. Throw backs up straight to his turrets and will be just fine as Dignitas creates space.
That didn't do anything for them though. That was a huge problem. They created a bit of space, but they didn't isolate anybody. They're going in once again. The sanctification is already on the ground as the ancestor comes through, saves them. Curson is low and Snitch gets the kill.
He gets the kill, but Bakery may also get picked up the Haymaker to kick away the palm there, so it has been picked here for Team Expert. They have 4 members still up. They jump in looking for Snitch, but Snitch jumps to the wall. He's trying to retreat. Can Mena be here in time? Yes, he is. He'll get a shield and be able to grab the Punisher.
Snitch's skill against Rhaegar was so important because before they used a lot of tools to try and maybe get Sonya, and they didn't. So resources were committed to the fight, and that's when Expert said, boys, we got this. They go in, but then Snitch is ready and he confirms the kill against Rhaegar, and that's where the tide turns against Expert, and Dignitas can grab the Punisher.
Dignitas moving towards that bottom side right now. They don't have any pressure to have to push this bottom lane. They can grab a keep wall, but no real responsibility to grab much more than that. Their big major power spike comes in 2 levels. We always talk about it, Tyrael and the Holy Ground.
Yeah, Holy Ground for isolation, and especially around the Shrine. You have so many choke points where you can use it. At this point, it's just that level lead for Dignitas that gives them the confidence. In 1 level, they will hit level 16 talents, and that is going to be huge. They will dominate that map and paint it blue, as there's more than enough camps that they can still be taken.
For now, they have to keep the paintbrush away, as they have to wait for that level 16. Team Expert needs to find a way to get back in the experience. They're a full level behind, and they're going to go ahead and start spreading out, grabbing the Merc camp in the top right to get that pressure, to get them a little bit more room, and if they can, find a target. I feel like isolation and picking off a target right now is great for them if they can get it done before the next Shrine phase.
And I want to see what Bad Bunny in particular does now with Haymaker, what kind of plays they have set up here, because he can always make sure that he pushes Dignitas out of the fight. If they can isolate one, even better. But I really want to see if in the end it's worth going for Haymaker to get these plays, or if Avatar would have just been the safer play here for them.
The last fight, he used it on the carries to try and knock away the palm target. So that could be the intention here. Get the palm, drop it away, make sure they can't get the value out of it, but still will be a bit difficult to pull that off fully here. Team Expert still a level behind, but trying to catch up with their opponents as they continue to clear out the waves. And 16 about to hit for Dignitas. And the moment I see that 16 hit, I expect them to get on a target.
Yeah, the thing about Expert is that if you listen to their comps, it's actually really interesting. They're a very, very quiet team in the way that they shot call. We have a lot of teams in the European scene that have a lot of passion. They get really agitated during big fights, during like intense games. Fnatic being one of them, but also Team Dignitas at times. Expert is always very clinical, very quiet, just sharing information the entire time and making sure that everybody is aware what's happening here. So once they saw that Dignitas takes the lead, the call was just simply, guys, play it safe, get the experience, let them take the map, it's fine, we get 16, and then the Shrine will be active for us to take another team fight.
And Team Expert is working towards that 16. A wave in the middle should award it to them, and they can go to the top and actually fight against Dignitas. Dignitas, though, has already showed that aggression, as expected, with that 16 hitting. And we should see them try to slow down the rotations of their opponents here on the right. Snitch very good at that there with that Genji. Top lane also pushing as well. So JPL scouting out the entire team of Team Expert, while on the bottom lane, look at Brightwing. He's doing Brightwing things.
Exactly. Once again, utilizing the global, as they should. And we have also Hunger of the Wolf taken on 16 by Rhaegar. So Curson wants a bit of a bite of especially Leoric, I suppose. We're seeing already Holy Ground come into play, as you expected. And they're trying to isolate one here. That so far didn't work out, but Dignitas is taking the lead now as we have Expert starting to invade the Shrine, and just as they complete also the quest on Murden.
Team Expert putting Dignitas back into a corner. This allows Li Ming to shell spells constantly, looking for that big moment where she hits a big orb. The moment that happens, a throw can move in, and there it is. He moves right on in, but Snitch, he's wanting to fight. Emerald win to go for Nick. Nick's getting low, and Ancestor Healing does connect as Curson nails it.
Curson saving his teammate, and the immediate answer, Tyrael gets blown to pieces as JPL dies. Team Expert softening up the targets first. Dignitas engages into the fight, but now they are in trouble. Muradin with a deep dive into the backline, trying to go for Genji. The palm does proc at the end, but Genji still falls.
Snitch has fallen, but the Punisher has risen. Azalea will finish it off. We're going to turn around with the March of Black King, just trying to buy time now. Finally being taken out, and Team Expert will be able to take out 3 members of Dignitas and turn around and defend the Punisher. A big moment for them.
The important part really is that Dignitas was still able to claim the Punisher. If that would have failed, if Expert gets the kills and the objective, that would have been an absolute disaster for the team in blue and could have even led to the first keep of the game fall at the top lane. But this way, Dignitas has some time to recover. But you see that their concerns about going up against Expert were well founded. Expert has now taken a sliver of a lead in experience. There was a big gap before, and now Dignitas, they can't rely on the lead anymore.
And Team Expert is willing to get aggressive. Bad Benny being able to jump into the fights. But you got to shout out Kirsten in that last team fight, saving Nick with the Ancestor Healing.
Yes.
If that had not occurred, Nick would have fallen, and Team Expert would have had to give up everything in that top side of the map.
That Ancestral was absolutely brilliant. It was exactly what they needed. Snitch wanted the kill, the Emerald Wind Isolation so far worked. Polymorph being in there, immediately just trying to make sure that Li Ming can't escape, can't teleport away, and then just before Li Ming dies, it's all of a sudden Person who hits the ult and is able to keep her alive. Right now, the teams are of course aiming for more control here. 20 is still a far bit away, but we are going to see over the next Shrine phase who has the better coordination in these team fights.
Bad Benny jumping in, looking for a fight. A big combo coming out from Nick. JPL will get low, but you can see the damage potential between 2 members.
And he just made sure that he cleansed the Haymaker. And that was in the last second as Karazim dashed in with a cleansing touch. Half a second later, and Haymaker from Muradin hits, and all of a sudden we're going to see Genji on the other side of the map, and he would die there. No escape, so that was a last moment save that we saw.
Bakery making the big plays there as Team Expert grabs the Mercs on the top side, and Dignitas continues the aggression. And you mentioned 20 a little bit early here. As we move into level 20, who has the stronger composition? Is it Team Expert?
The one thing for Expert, which on 20 is absolutely insane for them, is first of all the Twilight Archon on the side of Tacita, but also Sonya.
Yes.
Sonya is such a monster in the late game. She's already a beast on level 16, but once she hits 20, she's nearly unkillable.
Well, the 20 is not here yet, as both teams are about to hit level 19, and the shrines will activate. They'll be here in 20 seconds. It's in the middle of the field here. So we'll see our aggression from our teams as Dignitas is looking for someone to catch off. They were looking for a throw. Bad Benny, though, doing a great job of slowing down JPL, making it hard for him to hit the Eldruid.
The way that Expert moves is also extremely nice here. Always Bad Benny shielding the rest of his team and also looking, of course, for that opportunity with Haymaker. And to get that value, he went on 16 into the Dwarf launch, which is the standard talent to take right now after we've seen the changes to level 7 for Muradin. So he can really engage behind the target. And we're already seeing all of those displacements coming to play here as Karazim dashes around, cleanses out everybody that is in need of receiving one. Here's the Holy Ground and the Sanctification comes in.
JPL with the Holy Ground from Hell looks for a fight there, but Team Expert, they're able to get away, but here's a big combo from Nick. Team Dignitas pulls back, trying to be near Karazim, getting the heals coming in, while Snitch will get the face shift.
Bakery so important here right now with the triple dash and all those cleanses. Expert getting out once again, and JPL over and over using the Holy Ground to just push them away. Mena even here at that point with his ult, dropping it too. Once again, Benny jumping in deep but missing the Stormbolt.
Bad Benny not quite getting the combo that he wanted. That was their last chance to get a fight before Dignitas was able to get the Punisher. Team Expert fails and Team Dignitas succeeds. They will go ahead and grab the Punisher and continue to start pushing in the middle lane. 20 still looming for both of our teams.
I can guarantee you the adrenaline is pumping in those 10 players right now. This is probably the most important game of the series. Both of them were so worried about winning the first one here, especially Dignitas. Right now, they take a bit of a lead here with the Punisher. They want to get 20 first, and they're starting to push it in. Mena split up to the top. Leoric already at the bot lane. They're trying to push 3 so that they get the experience for the Storm Talents.
They lose a fort, but Team Expert defends. Mirrorball really helping out there. That level 16 for Li Ming. 20 hits for Dignitas, but Team Expert is not in a spot to get caught out, and they'll be just fine. And we are going straight into the late game here with our teams having all keeps up, and we have Dignitas 1-4 ahead of their opponent.
And it's all about survivability for Dignitas. We currently have 2 times Stormshield taking the Shroud of the Dead King for Leoric, Nullification Shield on the side of Tyrael, the Storm Shield for Bakery, and then of course the Dragon Becomes Me for Genji, and in continuous wins. It's all about the execution, the Sanctification. It's the Emerald Wind. They matter in those next fights. And Expert has, of course, reached 20 now as well. And this is really getting tense.
That level 20 going to help out Tyrael. Li Ming has been focusing as much as she can in these team fights. Finally having that spell shield will allow for Dignitas to force the issue whenever they would like. JPL continues to dance on the bottom side while we go ahead and have our teams fighting for who can push their lanes the furthest here as they set up for the next couple of fights. And they might have one here over the Merc camp.
And think about how all these games, not only in the opening week, but also the first best of 3 of the day have ended. We had so many kills, so many fights, but Expert and Dignitas, they are so familiar with each other that they're really hesitant to commit to big battles right now. 5 kills only after 20 minutes. Extremely uncharacteristic for the two here.
Team Experts still waiting for level 20 on the Murden as well. Could we see the Grand Slam double haymaker?
Well, I guess we could. It's Expert after all. But for now, it's once again the map control they're focusing on. Camps taken. But it could be the one team fight that decides the game. Now, Dignitas has an advantage. They have 2 forts taken. At this point, they still have a fountain at the bot lane. This is exactly where the shrine spawns. Bot and mid lane with a fountain for Dignitas, whereas Expert has lost both of them.
Team Expert, if they grab this Punisher, could push the bottom side, finally get a fort open, but probably not a keep. On the other side, Dignitas, they could.
Yeah, exactly. They could get a keep, and with a few kills, maybe even core. So this is super dangerous for Expert right now. Especially, again, the fountain in the mid lane, at the bot lane. That is so much sustain in fights. If they move out, reset their cooldowns, and get also health back, that would mean everything for them. They're already starting the fight here. Xaylia going in with a Royal Focus, making sure that he hits Sonya, reduces the damage. Here comes the Haymaker. JPL in trouble. Dignitas follows up the continuous wins already used as main is trying to create some space for his team. Snitch in the backline, trying to get a bit of damage in, but he needs to retreat, and Bakery is ready with a cleansing touch.
He has to run. Nick hit a Mirable combo on him. Nice job there from Team Expert. Bad Benny, he leaves it in the middle of the fight. They turn around and they eliminate Snitch. Team Expert grouping up on the side here while Nick continues to shell away.
Ethereal, he's in trouble, needs to be careful. Here comes the Ancestral. Curson has his back, and now Dignitas is on the retreat. They want to reset, they want to go to the fountain, they want to go back in again, but with Genji dead, that's becoming an issue. And Expert is taking the lead on the minions, and they will walk away with the Punisher.
Rewind picked up there for Team Expert, keeping up that aggression. Bad Benny continuing to look more, anchoring for his team. This Punisher will easily go over to Team Expert. The question is, how much can they get with this Punisher?
They will get the fort for sure. They are going to try and push for keep here. They might even get it. It all comes down to how can Dignitas react. A big concern with playing the double support Genji style is that you oftentimes miss out on a bit of the damage. And once Genji died, that was a massive problem for Dignitas. The problem is that at the time, they committed a lot of resources, but if they can retreat as 5 and just reset, they're still fine here. But look how aggressive Expert is. They want to get everything out of this one Punisher. They took down the fort, they go for the keep, but Dignitas is answering. They're trying to defend here, especially by using Xaylia and the Ominous Ray.
Bad Benny continuing to keep the aggression up. JPL jumps into the fight. Snitch is finally here. There is no Dragon Blade, and the Punisher is still almost full health here. 3/4 of the health bar still sitting up here while the keep continues to get focused down. Team Expert, they smell blood in the water.
Expert said this is the easiest team for them to beat in the round of 8. They're going for it. They want to go for the core. They have the Twilight Archon, but he has a 5 versus 5 seconds until Sanctification, and also the Dragon Blade are once again up. Snitch is in trouble. Snitch dashes out and barely escapes.
But not
JPL is also surviving somehow.
How do they survive here? Team Dignitas is holding here. The core continues to fall 60% down to 50. Bad Benny landing a Storm Ball. It's going to keep Snitch on the backside. JPL jumps forward, but it's not enough. Team Expert, they get the first win of the best of 3 series.
Team Expert in the straight-up fight against Dignitas is victorious. Great play by them here, and especially after getting the last Punisher, immediately realizing how they can maximize the damage to their opponent. They move in, they drop the wall at the keep, they already put pressure on it before Genji is back, and as the Punisher with the minion waves moves through the fort, it's all of a sudden an open lane to the court, and they use it.
Many wondered if Team Expert could even come into the series and take a game off Dignitas on land, and they have done so. Let's go to our analyst here and get their thoughts on the match.
that is the level of play we're expecting here of the round of 8 for BlizzCon to start things off. A close, high-level spectacle that was ended by what seemed like a 3-minute fight towards the end, and all it took was Team Expert to find that one opening towards the end, Jay-How. That was extremely impressive.
Yeah, and it was kind of a weird fight for Dignitas because Snitch went all the way in there. Bakery kind of came over, kind of saving the day there on high mobility, but then the minute we saw Snitch kind of use his dash out, well, Muradin goes in with that extra range on his dwarf toss, and then from that stun they followed up, and that's all it took to kind of just snowball from there.
I mean, yeah, I feel like it was a big challenge here for Dignitas. They made one very interesting decision. Calder, Trickster, they touched upon it. Divine Palm, Cleansing Touch. So we don't have the blow-up comp here, where you segregate the team of Expert and try to kill a warrior. Leoric is good at killing a warrior. Karazim can be, but in this case, they didn't go with that route. So there was only one strategy remaining for Team Dignitas, and I have 2 replays to show you that exactly. Here we have a fight, and we're gonna see JPL jump in, and we kind of play it slow as we are. He jumps in with that Eldruin's Might very soon. And from that moment onwards, they're gonna flip the switch. Here we see, as we pause it for a second, we see now that we have taken a no-go zone here with that Sanctification. And Rhaegar is being caught in a very awkward position. As we roll it forward, we're gonna see Snitch eagerly jump in there on that Rhaegar, go to safety, get out again. And this is basically how Dignitas wants to be playing these kind of team fights. As we play this on, there is a second one. Curson has wisened up on Rhaegar. He needs to stay away very far from that Genji Tyrael composition. So we're gonna see a very similar engage here. As we pause it here for a second, a new target has been chosen. In this case, it's going to be Li Ming. Now, she was caught on the wrong side of the Sanctification, and she's gonna try and make her way out with teleportations like this. It's a very close affair. Note Curson's positioning. This time, he is much safer. He's got many directions where he can pull away in. And this is why he is no longer an attractive target. As we play it forward, we're gonna see that Li Ming drops very low indeed. The Emerald Wind is unable to separate the support from the damage. The Ancestral Healing comes in, and it is huge. The turnaround kill on Tyrael happens with a perfectly placed mirror ball from Li Ming, and 2 more kills end up happening here for Team Expert, which goes a long way towards actually having Expert remain even in the game despite losing a number of structures.
I mean, it was a little unfortunate for Li Ming at the beginning of that fight because the cleanse did come out onto her, but pressed up against the wall, it was a little unfortunate that she was in that spot. So, but still, as you're mentioning, Curson with the extra reactions after that, very, very strong to aid that target.
And that was going to be key because Jay-How, I think you said it best in the draft analysis, Rhaegar is the #1 target here. Solo support cannot Ancestor or cleanse himself, and so his positioning was key.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed out the difference there. It's when you learn from your mistakes, understanding that it's like, hey guys, this Genji kind of hurts, I'm just going to stay back a little bit. You can pick and choose your moments a lot better. Curson, I think, did an excellent job.
The summary of the game for me, felt like it was the battle of the reset. Snitch so hungry for his team to collapse. They had that all-in composition. It was obviously very melee focused, so in the case of defending, they were quite weak in that final push as we saw, but if one reset got on their side, so many times when they find that kill target, they just can't find it. The Ancestral is there. There's some way to stabilize and keep them surviving, but you got Li Ming on one side, Genji on the other. It's that battle of who can flex it first, and it just happened to be Expert were always the ones counteracting with those engages and finding those kill targets with Muradin specifically.
I mean, it felt like a lot hinged on Snitch's play in general. There were some plays at the beginning of the game that looked fantastic and he was able to secure some kills, but towards the end, if he's not doing his job, if he's being shut down constantly by things like the Muradin, it's very hard for Dignitas to gain traction off the back of that.
You can almost see the sort of, as Jay-How touched on before, kind of a bit of panic, I suppose, of like, I need to try and make a play. He jumps into the back line with a swift strike. He gets Haymaker away, thinking, well, hang on, I'm in the middle of Africa right now. What do I do with my team? He's trying to come back. He's trying to force that fight, but it's just not able to happen. It's not clean cut and executed on the level that we've come to know from Dignitas.
But the thing is, it is all on Snitch's shoulders. He is the only assassin in this competition. And when that is Genji, you lack the sustained damage to soften someone up. So it has to be in this extraordinary flurry of heroics that Team Dignitas finds their solace. Going up against Expert. And let's talk about execution here. Dignitas needs to hit everything perfectly. Positionally, timing-wise, Expert all they got to do is walk away.
Right.
And then a very big responsibility on Bad Bunny with those haymakers to disrupt Sanctification.
Well, time now to move on here as game one has concluded. Expert at the moment lead 1-0. We're going to hear a word from our sponsors, and when we return,